Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's been 28 days since President Buhari was inaugurated into office for a second term in office, and many Nigerians are beginning to raise eyebrows at his delayed cabinet appointments. Joining us now to speak on what Nigerians should expect to see a cabinet in place is a special advisor, media and publicity to the president, Femi Adesina. Good morning.
Femi, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome to the morning
Good
show.
morning.
And thank you for, agreeing to have this conversation with us. Quickly, how soon?
Thank you.
How soon are we likely to have, new appointments, particularly the appointment of ministers, special advisors, and so on and so forth? Because you're on record as having said that, it will happen very soon. How soon? Because Nigerians are anxious. Will it take 6 months?
Well, let me, as an aside now, let me welcome Dr. Abati back to this platform after your sojourn with, what you call the Shulalu. So, you're well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a great experience.
Welcome. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Okay, now straight to your question. Yes, the cabinet list will come any moment. But then, I think that the agitation in code now over whether it should have come before now or not is not really necessary, because the National Assembly got inaugurated on June 11th, and I think after that they went on recess immediately to reconvene on July 2nd. If the cabinet list is going to be transmitted, it's going to be sent to the Senate President. So the Senate is on recession, not to come back till July 2nd. I think we do not need to have all the agitation over it just yet. And let's not forget, the president in an interview with This Day newspaper, which is a sister to this television station, had said that his cabinet list for the second term will not take as long as it did in the first time. In the first term, it took 6 months. But the circumstances then are different from the circumstances now. So we don't expect that it will take that long. In fact, it will not take long at all.
So we should.
That's for the cabinet. For the advisors and the other personal aides, that is also the prerogative of the president. He is the one that will pick his advisors, his members of his kitchen cabinet and the like, and it will come as soon as possible.
Well, so, in other words, you are saying that we should expect a cabinet list in the first week of July. And then as for the advisors and the assistants, yes, it is the prerogative of the president to hire and fire. But some of you have continued to work for him by conduct, contrary to sections 151 and 171 of the Constitution.
Yes, I've heard all the legal arguments for and against, because just as you have quoted that, some other lawyers have also said that there's nothing sacrosanct about the advisors and the assistants being removed and all that. So there are two sides to the argument. But what I can tell you is that unless you are fired, you don't abandon ship. We have been doing that work for the president, and we have not got any contrary communication from him saying, okay, leave. Do you then abandon ship and let his work suffer? No. That is why we are still there, because nature abhors a vacuum. You can't create a vacuum. So we continue to do the work till the president indicates what his preference is for us or for other people. We are just still holding forth.
Mr. Adesina, you've said that Nigerians would not have to wait a day later than necessary for a new cabinet. So what has necessitated the wait so far of almost 3 weeks? What kind of stakeholder consultations are being held? Is it with parties, state governors, civil society organizations? Who has the president's ear at the moment? And what has caused the 3-week lapse?
Well, you know, the president is on record as having said that when governors, for instance, pick their own cabinet in the states, do they consult him? Does he interfere? No, he doesn't interfere. So that means he's at liberty to consult governors or not. He can decide to do it, but he's not compelled to do it. Of course, yes, he needs to consult with the party because he derives his legitimacy from being a member of the party. The president is not greater than the party. So it's not going to be unseemly if he consults the party. Yes, he needs to. So the consultations are on, but it's not as if that the president is compelled to do certain things, but consultations are on.
Thank you, Mr. Adesina. Now, last week, the president asked the National Economic Council to kickstart the provision of free education for all as provided under Section 18.3 of the Nigerian Constitution. Yet I'm pretty sure that the concern of the citizens is ensuring that this is taken beyond advocacy and ensuring that it is actually enforced in state governments. What is the presidency currently doing to ensure that this is taken beyond the advocacy level and state governments are actually working on the order as given by the president?
Well, you use the word order. I wouldn't say order, because in a democracy, a president cannot even order the governors. They can maybe give directives, they can give counsel, and they work together collaboratively. And because these are responsible people, the president, we know, is not a frivolous person, and the governors are also supposed to be very serious-minded people. Therefore, if something like that comes, you don't think they will treat it with flippancy or levity. They will hit the ground running, start working on it, and I believe they have started.
I mean, a few days ago, you expressed your view about the security situation in the country. You said, to use your own word, that Nigeria is in dire times, but that the government is not overwhelmed. Now, about the same time, the vice president made a statement at a town hall meeting in New York, where he was quoted as saying, where kidnapping has been politicized and the social media tends to get into a frenzy. And that has created some kind of concern with Afenifere Social Southern and Middle Belt Forum criticizing the vice president heavily this morning in the newspapers. Now, what exactly is the position of government? Is government saying that there is security problem, or is government saying, well, it's not a serious problem? Because we keep getting contradictory signals from the federal government.
The vice president, I read the report from what the vice president said in the United States of America. The vice president didn't dismiss that there were security challenges in the country. Everybody knows that there are security challenges. But are these challenges exaggerated from certain quarters? Yes, they are. And why are they exaggerated? For political reasons. We know that from those quarters where the exaggerations come, are the same quarters that had opposed the president, that they didn't want the president to get a second term. So he got a second term despite their opposition, and they just feel that security is something they can play politics with, but you shouldn't play politics with human lives. My conclusion is there are security challenges in the country. The government is battling those security challenges. Eventually, the government and the people of Nigeria will overcome. But those who exaggerated it are doing the polity a lot of damage. And I'll just advise them, please stop playing politics with security.
Now, going to PEPS, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, the spokesman for Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate for PDP, Paul Ibe, has said that the INEC server issue, the INEC server controversy, which has been reported as the courts denying PDP access to the server, he has debunked that and said that what the courts in fact said was that it was not appropriate at this stage of the case, of the trial. What is your view on this, considering that APC had touted this as a victory against propaganda?
No, I should have no view. I should have no view about it at all, because it's a legal thing, it's in the tribunal, and what the court said is that at the interlocutory stage, it's not something to be considered. That means it will still come up at a later time in the course of the trial of the case. Therefore, I should have no opinion about it, because we should let the court do its work.
Okay, Mr. Adesina, I'd like to take you back to matters of security. One recent development that came out of the office of the president was, of course, the executive order given on the banning of all small arms around the country. Now, this did come as a bit of a scare to the Nigerian people, to civilians, especially people who felt that they had licensed arms to protect themselves in ways that they believed that the government was not able to do so. Now, of course, in order for the government to put an order out like this, the government also has to ensure that they are providing for the security of the people in two ways. Having proper intel gathering, that would be the first way, and the secondly would be in having an efficient rapid response team. What activities are currently going on to build up the capacity of these two areas of security, especially as the government is looking towards a new national security architecture, sir?
Well, you need to be quite sure that there was a ban in the first place. You need to be sure that there was such instruction from the office of the president, because the police that should know say they are not aware of any such ban. You found that even the House of Representatives debated it and came to a conclusion before the last assembly terminated. But did they find out whether there was a ban or not? And you as a media house, I think you should take it as a challenge to find out, is there such a ban? Because as we speak, nobody has said, yes, this is the ban, this is the document, and this is what it says.
So was an executive order issued, sir? I am not privy to
it, but the police, who should know, have said they don't know of any such ban.
So you can't confirm whether an executive order was issued in this regard, sir?
No, I do not have that information. And if the police high command can say they do not have it, I doubt if it exists. But then it's also, the onus is also on the media to find out whether it really exists or not.
Well, Femi, Chief Ayo Adebanjo recently described President Muhammadu Buhari as a civilian autocrat. You have worked with him for 4 years now. What do you think? What kind of man is he, and what kind of style are we likely to see going forward?
No, I do not think a single bone of autocracy exists in the president's body now. In the past, yes, he was an autocrat, and we know how he ran the country with an iron fist. And do you also recall that a lot of people still voted him back because they yearned for those days of iron fist? But today, I don't think a bone of autocracy exists in the president's body. I'm talking of Chief Ayo Adebanjo, a venerable old man, Yoruba leader. We respect him, but we also know his opinion and his predilections towards the president. So whatever he says, we know where he's coming from.
Now, I want to talk to you about the Presidential Implementation Committee on Financial Autonomy of State Legislature and Judiciary, which has just submitted their report. I want to also tie this in with the NFIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, and that local government autonomy initiative via executive order. What is this saying about President Buhari's thinking at the moment? What can we infer from this? Can we expect to see real systemic changes, especially now at a time when state police has been mooted, for example? Are we heading towards federalism as opposed to this quasi-federal system that we operate?
Yes, if you cast your mind back to May 29, 2015, at the Eagle Square that day, the president had promised that the local government will have their autonomy from the states. And also later in that first term, he had set up a panel to look into this autonomy for state legislature and state judiciary. So it's promise made and promise kept. That shows you that we are going to a situation in which there will be true federalism and there will be autonomy between states and the federal and the states and the local government.
Okay, Mr. Adesina, unfortunately, sorry, sir, we do have to go on a very quick break. As soon as we are back, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us, sir. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The special advisor on media and publicity to the president, Femi Adesina, is still here with us on the program. Welcome back, sir. Before we went on a break, you were responding to the last question asked by Tundu Abiola.
Hello, I didn't quite get that.
You can go on, sir, and respond to the last question asked before the break. Welcome back.
Okay. Okay, yes, like I was saying before we went to that break, the president, as far back as May 29, 2015, had promised autonomy for the local government. And I said, what is happening now is promise made and promise kept. A lot of people have complained about the kind of federalism that we run in Nigeria that is skewed in many ways. And this is an attempt to get our federalism right. But the dialogue continues. It continues because the Governors Forum have issues, particularly about the NFIU and some directives that came from it, and it will be discussed, and we will get to an amicable solution where we can run the kind of federalism that works for everybody.
Yes, sir, and we honestly do hope that it is promise made and promise kept, because one promise, if we can say that the president did mention recently, I believe on Democracy Day when he was giving his speech, is that he does intend on lifting 10 million Nigerians out of poverty every year. Over the next 10 years, well, 4 years of his administration, but as a 10-year plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Now, of course, we know that our expected growth rates for this year are 2.7%, and that's not necessarily our real growth rate, which, of course, is at a deficit, seeing as we do have double-digit inflation rates and a population growth rate that is higher than our GDP rate. So what exactly is the president planning on doing to ensure that he does lift 10 million Nigerians out of poverty over the next year? Because this isn't necessarily a small statement to make.
Thank you. Not a small statement, a very big one, and there will be efforts in that direction. Indeed, the efforts have started. Just yesterday or day before, you had the central bank governor outline his program for the next 5 years. And his intention is to generate a certain number of jobs. Before that, we have had a Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment saying that in the next 4 years, it will create about 5 million jobs. Calculate what the ministry wants to generate without CBN, that's much already. And by the time that spreads around government, you can be sure that at the end of 4 years, the administration will have gone far in its target of lifting 100 million people out of poverty. And the government is a continuum. Whichever government succeeds, this one in 2023, will also go ahead. One thing is that it's doable. The president mentioned countries that have done it: China, India, Indonesia. If they did it, Nigeria can also do it. And I think it calls for positivism from the populace that it can be done. And I believe we'll get there.
Yes, Femi, yesterday the Afenifere Renewal Group visited President Buhari. Then there was also a delegation from Nasarawa State. And at both fora, the president made quite a number of statements. Now, is that the situation in the villa right now? All these groups, coming to pay homage to the president to congratulate him on his re-election? Or you get a sense that people are coming to the villa one way or the other to lobby for this or that? Can you give us a sense of what has been going on in the villa since the president was inaugurated for a second term in office?
Well, the group that came yesterday was not a Afenifere Renewal Group.
Okay.
Because Afenifere Renewal Group is different from mainstream Afenifere. What came yesterday was Afenifere and not the Renewal Group. The Renewal Group is different from the group that came yesterday. That's just by way of explanation. Yes, there was also a delegation from Nasarawa State, but then also remember that same yesterday, the president received the report of the panel on independence of the state judiciary and legislature. So it shows you that it's a potpourri of events. Now, the president is working towards putting government together at the personal level, his key aides, and for the cabinet. And you know that even after the cabinet, there are still going to be hundreds and hundreds of other appointments. So the president is working on putting government together. And because he's the president of the people, he must necessarily see some people that seek to see him. It does not mean that he's going to see every group, because it will affect the work. But as it does the work, it takes time to see some interest groups that come. They are not necessarily coming to pay homage. Yes, when they come, they congratulate him on his re-election, but they also make demands. Afenifere had a 5-point demand yesterday. All the groups that come make demands, and that is part of governance. So that is what is happening now in the villa.
What is your response to the reports that the Fitch report says that Nigeria's economic prospects are bleak and will not recover until 2028?
That is just one report. There was another report by the World Bank 2 days ago that says Nigeria is not under threat in any way, that the economy has signs of robustness and it will recover and life will be better for Nigerians. So you have quoted one report, I've quoted another report.
Okay, sir. Now, going back to intel gathering and security that I was speaking of earlier, the Office of the President recently responded to the claims by ex-President General Olusegun Obasanjo, who stated that he did not necessarily receive an invite for the Democracy Day celebrations, and the presidency said that an invite was sent to all elderly statesmen to the last known address, quote unquote, the last known address. How are civilians supposed to have some sort of confidence in the intel gathering capacity of our government if we cannot necessarily specify and be assured of the addresses of our ex or current existing elderly statesmen, and we're still going by last known addresses, sir? Or is this also another manual process of the government that does need revamping?
No, I didn't quite get that question.
Recently, the Office of the President.
What really is the question?
Recently, the Office of the President responded to the statement that came out by ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo, stating that he did not receive an invite for the Democracy Day celebrations, and it was said that an invite was sent to the last known address. Last known address, sir, is not, however, a confirmed and assured address. Or is this just a way of lingo? Or can we say that we can't necessarily have full confidence in the intel gathering capacities because it may still be a manual process?
Okay, thank you. For me, I think the issue is neither here nor there. The former president said he didn't receive an invitation. The presidency has given proof that his private secretary of many years received the invitation. He didn't attend the June 12 event. That is beyond us, is behind us now. So I think we should just move ahead and attend to other weightier matters that confront the country.
Thank you.
Well, Femi, there's been some resistance to the idea of the Ruga settlement. That's Fulani settlements proposed by the National Economic Council, and which is part of the National Livestock Transformation Framework 2018 to 2027. In Benue, particularly, the Benue state government is saying that they have no land for any Ruga settlement, and that they have communicated this to the federal government. They were told that, well, this will be looked into, only for the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to go ahead and impose a Ruga settlement on Benue State, already in about three local governments. Now, do you get the sense that, perhaps this whole idea of, Fulani settlements across the country could lead to further conflicts, further tension, rather than solving a known problem?
Yes, if only we could eschew suspicion, we could eschew malice, we could eschew negative tendencies to people of other ethnic stocks, there will be no problem. The Benue State governor has been quoted a number of times that what can solve the problem is the establishment of ranches. He is on record as saying that. Now, these Ruga settlements, are they not some form of ranching? That's the question. Now, you have said ranches, ranching of cattle will solve the crisis. Now, that is being done through these Ruga settlements, and you say you have no land to give. Nigeria has to decide whether it wants to solve this problem or not.
Well,
all over the world, in countries that have many more cattle than Nigeria has, you don't see cattle roaming on the streets because they ranch them. Now this government is working towards ranching, and some governors are saying, we have no land. Then they are saying, we don't want this problem to be solved.
Well, will it not be better for the federal government to establish those ranches in states that are willing to cooperate, rather than to insist that the federal government would unilaterally choose the states and impose the ranches on them?
Good. That was the conclusion of the National Economic Council when they set up a committee to look into the ranching model. What the government said was that states that are willing and that have lands to give, yes, they will set up those ranches. I am not aware that any state is being forced now to take that option.
Well, that's comforting to hear because of all the work that's been done to establish autonomy in different tiers of government. Now to the comments made by the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, about the fight against poverty, and he has identified as key the removal of subsidies of petroleum products and electricity in Nigeria. What's your take on this?
Yes, it's an ongoing debate. And I can tell you that it has come up a number of times, particularly in the last Federal Executive Council, what to do with the extra funds being paid on petrol by government. Some people call it subsidy. Some say it's not subsidy, but we know that some kind of bridging is done.
Mr. Adesina,
what do we do? The president's concern is that...
Mr. Adesina, I do beg your pardon. Please hold that thought as we just take a short break. We'll return. Welcome back. You're watching the morning show on Arise News. Still with us is Special Advisor, Media and Publicity to the President, Mr. Femi Adesina. Thank you so much for staying with us, Mr. Adesina. As you were saying, in response to the remarks made by the Emir of Kano regarding subsidy removal.
Yes, thank you. What we know is that there are lots of inefficiencies in the petroleum procurement and distribution process in Nigeria. And that is largely because petroleum is still being imported. And until we can stop importation, we will not be in control of all the variables. But a concern of the president is that inefficiencies of the system and the repercussions of neglect of the past that led to the collapse of oil refineries should not be passed to the people. The president has always said that he doesn't want the people to be the one that bear the brunt of the inefficiencies of government in the past and inefficiencies in procurement and distribution of the present. So that issue is there, but the president is reluctant to make the people bear the brunt. Well, eventually this will be sorted out when Nigeria can be in control of all the variables about petroleum distribution. Get our refineries working, refine locally, and distribute locally.
Okay, so now going back to the discussion of the cabinets of President Muhammadu Buhari, this time around, can we expect to see a more inclusive cabinet in terms of ethnicity, age, and gender, sir?
Well, the cabinet had always been inclusive in terms of ethnicity. And you know why? The Constitution requires that each state must have a minister. So if the Constitution already requires that, that means each state produces a minister. And the states, the ethnic groups are represented through the states. So in terms of ethnicity, I've never seen any lopsidedness in the cabinet. Okay, in terms of inclusivity, if you look at the next manual document of the APC, one of the things it says it will do in this term is to run an inclusive government. And it was specific, inclusive in terms of women and of youths. So we'll see that in this government.
Well, let me ask you a question about Nigeria and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Up to this moment, Nigeria is yet to sign up to the deal, and it will be inaugurated, the framework will be inaugurated on July 7th in Niamey. Now, we understand that the federal government wanted to get inputs from various stakeholders, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Chambers of Commerce, and that indeed a report has been submitted to the president by the committee that was set up and the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Industry. Now, are we likely to see President Buhari giving the directive that Nigeria should go ahead as a member of this new framework for integration in Africa?
Yeah, actually, the report will be submitted tomorrow at the State House. So after the report is submitted, it will be considered, and whatever is the position of Nigeria, I'm sure will be communicated particularly through the meeting that is coming up early July in Niger Republic. So the report is coming in tomorrow.
You're referring to the AU summit, the African Union summit in July?
Yes.
But a lot of the countries,
Yes,
I mean, there are only three exceptions
the
to the rule that the whole of Africa has signed up. There's only Nigeria, Benin, and Eritrea. So we're going to be a dissenting voice as we go into that AU summit.
Not like I said earlier, the report of the committee set up to advise government will come in tomorrow. So a lot will then arise from that report. If the stakeholders have given a go-ahead to government and all the conditions they would put in the report, if everything is fulfilled before that summit in July, I'm sure Nigeria will do the next thing.
I want to
But
take
we
you
need
back.
to wait for the report.
I want to take you back to how we started this conversation, which is security. That's the word on everybody's mind, which you quite rightly identified as dire. Yeah. Credit to you for not trying to understate in any way the severity of the situation that we face. But you also sounded a note of optimism and said it's a winnable situation. What exactly is the government doing to rectify the perilous situation that we find ourselves in?
Well, if there is anything that is uppermost in the mind of the president, it is to secure the country. You know, each time he lists his priorities for Nigeria, he will say, we will secure the country. And he adds that before you can efficiently manage a country, you must first secure it. So that shows you that security is uppermost in the mind of the president. And a lot is being done in that area. I think about 2 months ago, there was a statement from our department, the media department of the presidency, in which we listed all the efforts and initiatives that have been made on security alone between January and now. Just go back to that report and you will see that this government is not resting on its oars at all. A lot is being done. It's just that the challenges are enormous, but the government is up to it. And at the end of the day, I believe that we will surmount the challenges.
Now, still on the matter of security, a recent statement by the Chief of Army Staff, Buhari, hit the media, whereby he basically blamed his army men and women for what we're seeing today in terms of the insecurity that we're having in the country. And if I'm quoting Tunde on her words, she said it's like a workman blaming his tools. Now, the statement that he made was not taken lightly by the media, as it sent serious concern to Nigeria's citizens over the leadership of our current army in Nigeria today. Has the president said anything in this regard? Is there anything coming out of the presidency with regards to the statement made by Buhari? Because it was quite a shocking statement, rather.
The latest I know of that is that yesterday it was reported that the Chief of Army Staff said he was misquoted, that he has looked at his original statements again, and in no place did he blame the field commanders or the soldiers, and that his statement is on their website. So I think you as a media house should visit the website of the Army and confirm whether he said what was actually reported. It's only then that we can take it further.
Well, Femi, you and I know quite well that it's very convenient for government officials to say that they've been quoted out of context or they've been misrepresented. You know, it's very convenient to always blame the media or blame the messenger, as it were. But let me ask you a personal question. You've been in this job for 4 years now. How has it been? What have been the challenges that you have faced? And in case the president offers you, you know, an appointment still in the same position, will you be excited about the job? And will you accept to continue to serve in this very tough office? I haven't been there. I have an idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me take it from the latter part of your question. I am a Buharist. I have been a Buharist since he came in 1983 as a military leader. When he came as a politician in 2002, all the 3 elections he ran till he won the first time, I had always supported him. I'm a Buharist. Either in government or out of it, I will remain a Buharist. Yes, but if he offers me the same appointment to continue, why not? Because I'm a Buharist. I'll take it. Because why I came into government in the first place was to serve him. I never saw myself as a government person. In fact, I had always vowed that I would never serve in government. I remember when somebody asked me in 2007, can you ever serve in government? I said, no, I will never. But then I paused and said, only in a Buhari government, which then happened in 2015. So if he says serve, I'll continue to serve because I believe in him, I believe in where he is leading Nigeria, and I think I can contribute a quota, however small or large. Then the first part of the question is what again?
What your experience has been and what challenges have you faced? Your experience in the last 4 years, and if you have faced any challenges that you'd like to share with us.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course. You have traveled that road, and you know that it's a very challenging road. Very, very challenging. What of all the twisting and the manipulation of every word you say? You say one thing, when you see it reported, you get alarmed. Is this what I said? And you look at what you said again, and you look at the interpretation that has been given to it, and you know that there are some hidden hostile hands who are just there to twist everything you have said. It's a challenge. The traditional media, I would say, has done fairly well, but you know that the social media has no control, particularly in Nigeria. So that is where the havoc is wreaked. They try to expose you to odium, to opprobrium. They try to turn society over you. They try to paint you in a light you are not. They try to sort of turn you to an enemy of the people. That is not me. It would not be me, and it would never be me. So I've learned to take it in my strides.
It's interesting to see the former president of the Guild of Editors protesting about the conduct of persons on social media. And even some who start hiding hands.
I said the traditional media has done fairly well in reporting us. It's the social media.
Well, Thank you very much, Femi Adesina.
And you know, the social media is not really about journalism. It's not about journalism. At times, the social media is just about social lynching. You just lynch anybody.
It's about free speech, sir.
Well, did you hear Leila? She insists that it's about free speech.
Yes, free press, but freedom also has boundaries. Freedom
there
has
are no
control.
unqualified freedom,
That
but
freedom in the social media has no boundary for now. It has no control.
But you'll be a lot stronger for the experience. Dr. Abati here survived, and he lived to, fight again. So you'll be a lot better for the experience.
If you know my story.
No, I recall what he said about children of anger.
I use that phrase.
Anyway, thank you very much, Femi Adesina.
Thank you,
it's
sir.
been quite an interesting conversation with you this morning. We wish you all the best. Thank you.